Sometimes it's easier to just be a bystander. But here with you this morning, I have Sir Joseph Sato, who spends his entire life fighting for justice, and I hope we can at least learn something from him. Now, tell me, Joseph, won't you please share with us some of your research and what you've been working on lately? I know you were such a busy man, and I am so thankful that you could make this interview today. Yes, and I would just like to thank you so much for having me here. I am just so delighted of the fact that my job, and I'm so thankful for my job. It allows me to travel the world and learn, and those are two things that I think you should never stop doing in life, learning and traveling, because they're so great and they build so much character. Please tell us more of what you've been studying these last few years, and what was it that drove you to have such passion for social justice and just human rights in general? I think it's so amazing what you do, and you're just such an amazing person. Social justice. I have been working along with many organizations across the globe for people's rights to be followed, There's so many people that abuse their power out there, and I think there should be a voice from them. But mostly with African American people, and it's just because I think it's so unfair. I mean, they've been subjugated for so many years, and the fact that there's laws that still support racism, I think is just so ridiculous. So that's why I'm here, and that's why we're doing this interview. But thank you so much for having me. Joseph, please tell me more of what do you do and why, For the last few years, I've spent my time researching American history, and in such journey, I stumbled upon injustice, and I saw it, and I just think there's no one fighting for people. Some people just don't believe that social injustice is a thing, and I think it's my duty to work towards a better future. And although we can't change the past, you can't change slavery, I think we should work for an America that's free. I mean, an America that's just, because that's what it was founded on, and that's just what I think. And we can't change the past, but we can work for a future. Do you really think racism is still a problem? We're in the modern days. Shouldn't we at least know better? Yes, I do. Racism has modernized, disguised itself. I mean, we've grown so used to it that we no longer see it unless we're studying it, and that's why I think we have to work towards an America who has their eyes open, because it takes educating people to realize what's wrong with the world. And I think racism isn't as obvious as it used to be. It's more discreet, but it's still there, so. Well, I'm sure this is a question that everyone at home is wondering. How is it different? Like, in what ways has it changed, if it has at all? The way we treat it that has changed. Some people might say, well, people aren't being shipped and sold overseas, but there are slaves. Human trafficking is a thing, and it's happening right now, today. We've named it differently, but the schools are still technically segregated. You have rich white kids going to private school, and there's no care or funding for public schools, whereas where African American kids go. Because once the schools were not segregated, white folks sent their kids to private school and black kids went to public schools, and you know, it's, you know, because I actually had a meeting about a week ago with a good friend. Her name is Ellen Naomi Zuschultz, and she's the museum and art director of South Carolina State University. And we were just having dinner, talking about this, basically, and she was telling me about her university. They're shutting down the art program. It's an art and culture program, and it's really sad to hear that. The culture program is being closed because of the lack of funding, because of the lack of care of people in the administration for it. So thousands of dollars worth of African art is being lost. Thousands of dollars worth of African culture is being lost, and there's no one speaking for that loss. She actually told me we were speaking over dinner, and she told me that she went to her headmaster at the university, and he straight up told her that that wasn't a priority for them. And it's really sad to hear someone say that, because it's such a loss, and the fact that nobody cares is even worse, you know? Why does this matter? Because it's kind of off, you know, or just at least why is this relevant to now, to today, to why you're here? We'll see, places like this, museums that share culture, are the ones helping fight racism, and they teach the next generation great accomplishments of great people that made histories and became role models of their culture. Like, it's so sad to see a place as amazing as SCSU Art Museum being lost. At least you think laws supporting racism have been abolished? No. Laws supporting racism are still there. They're just not as blunt about it, you know? Because if not, how can you explain that approximately 12 to 13% of American population is African American, but there's up to 60% of almost 2.1 million male inmates in jail and in prison? I mean, how does that even make sense? That just, it doesn't make sense to me. And if there are so many African American people in jail, I doubt it's because they've all committed such terrible crimes, because I think it's not the laws, it's not just the laws, it's the people enforcing the law that have biased opinions that are racist, you know? So there's just no care for the enforcement of the law and it being just. Yeah. And what do you think is the problem? What is causing all of this? The problem is that there's still racist, ignorant people, and until that's taken care of, the country can't really move on, you know? There's racist people controlling the law, there's racist people enforcing the law, and there's just bystanders who don't care, and all of these things just help for us to not be able to move on and be able to flourish in other ways. And I think ignorance plays a big role in this, you know, the fact that people are so ignorant about Black accomplishments or accomplishments done by Black people. And that's why I'm here to ask people to think of social justice as a daily duty, that it isn't just a problem in the US, but in other countries that we must work on in order to reduce violence and teach the next generation diversity and tolerance. Our interview. I am your host, Amy Burks, and this has been News 21. Please stay tuned for Mark with the weather.
Baby, I'm hot, like the prodigal son. Big about the leany, meany, money, mo, and flower. You're the chosen one.
Joseph Santal. Let me tell you, it is such an honor to have you here. I am so delighted to be doing this. Necklace! Freaking, can't get this off. It's so hot. I hope you can appreciate my mustache, because I look ridiculous.